Hi everybody, I'm Howard, and this is Otto's Retirement Corner. So I want to follow up now with the Milton hurricane and talk about things, maybe I did wrong, what I did right, and just the overall aspect of dealing with a disaster or catastrophe or, weather events or, even man-made calamities. And some of the things we don't typically think about, but now I've had the chance to think about that I've been involved in it. So if you all saw my last video, I detailed some of the damage around the neighborhood. It wasn't, in any terms catastrophic, but, we're still dealing with it. And, as I told you, the storm came through mostly Wednesday night. It really got bad. I stayed at my wife's senior living facility in an apartment there with Otter and Juno. And she was in essence, my wife, she was in essence working most of the night, dealing with emergencies throughout her facility. Well, I stayed in the room with the dogs, and occasionally I had to walk them. So the last walk we took was about 7:30, I want to say. And by the time we got out, it was raining pretty heavily, and the winds, if I had to estimate, were probably about 50 miles an hour. Juno loved it. Juno didn't care. Otter wasn't thrilled about it, but he walked. And the interesting thing is, at 50 miles an hour, rain hurts. It would sting as it hit my face. I went out there with shorts, and I did wear a rain jacket, but I'm still drenched anyway. There's no way you can avoid that, and they have to go. And we went out and walked, and got over with it. Within maybe an hour and a half, the winds really started to pick up. And the way you could tell is in our room, there was kind of a whistle as the winds went through what I think was probably the HVAC system. And as that whistle got louder and louder, the winds were getting faster and faster. And suddenly it was just roaring. And, I looked out, it's hard to see from my room. So I went to the front entrance of the facility and opened the door there. And there's a canopy and brick walls on both sides. So I was pretty well protected. And I saw a sight I've never seen in my life. And while in one sense scary, in another sense it was really cool and exhilarating. I don't have anything to compare it to other than, I've seen 50, 60 mile an hour winds and storms before. This had to be at a minimum 80, 90, 100 plus miles an hour. And, the reports I've heard put it somewhere in that range. Typically it takes about 75 to 80 mile an hour winds to knock over big trees. And certainly we saw a lot of big trees over. Electric lines down. As I left there and got home Thursday morning at first light, 7:30, 8 o'clock, there were streets blocked, there were streets flooded, there were trees down all over, millions of little twigs and leaves. It just looked like a mess, far worse than it probably was. And surprisingly, I didn't see any homes blown out. There was a farm stand around the street, around the corner from us, and it was totally collapsed and decimated. But that's not built like a house. That's wooden and a tent. So it could have been worse. I guess we caught the upper part of the eye or the eye wall, not the eye itself, but we were on the northern end of what would have been the worst winds. And, we lucked out because if we were in the southern end, the storm surge into Tampa Bay would have been horrific. And so, so down Sarasota, Brandington way, it was probably much worse. And the electricity was out until Saturday night, about 72 hours or 3 days after it went out. So this is, you see on TV, okay, here's the hurricane damage. You see usually the worst parts, but you don't see, the parts just outside of that. And while the damage isn't huge, there aren't houses blown down. There were roofs blown off. There's 3-4 houses on my block that are going to need new roofs. Fences down everywhere. So you see that on TV, and then a day later it's over. And if you're not in that part of the country or that part of the state, it's out of mind. We saw it with Helene. It went through, it devastated Florida and North Carolina and South Carolina and wherever else it hit, Georgia. And then you forget about it. But if you're in it, you're still dealing with it, even though it's not catastrophic necessarily. So our electricity was out, so that meant no air conditioning, and it got a little cooler. It dropped below 70, those few nights, which was nice. We kept the windows open, but during the day, it's back in the 80s and it's really hot and uncomfortable, and I spent most of the last 3 days cutting up trees that had fallen in my yard, raking. I filled about 20 bags of yard waste, just raking up leaves and tile panels from roofs. Whether the debris was mine or from another yard, it's in my yard. I clean it up. My pine trees are permanently bent over, 10, 15, 20 degrees. Another storm will probably take them down or straighten them back up. Who knows? So I spent that time doing that. A huge section of fence fell down in my side yard. My neighbor has the skills and, was able to go to Home Depot and get wood. Home Depot was running on generator power. So they were selling, and we bought some wood, and him, his wife, and I, replaced about 30 feet of fence by hand, and it took a long time. They did most of the work, other than directing me, hold this board, take this board, put it there, hold it here, carry these boards over there. I don't have those skills, but we worked on it. Help him, repair his back fence with another neighbor. So it was a lot of hard work, and you can't come in and take a shower. You're sweating like crazy, because then there was a sewer backup here. So the sewer water was coming up through the sewers in the street, and it stunk. And they said, don't use your water. Well, who would want to use those water under those circumstances? So fortunately, I have a pool, so we're all able to, in essence, bathe in the pool. Not like we had soap, but taking a swim in a nice cool pool at that point is very refreshing. I have a pool, other people don't, again, these aren't third world problems, but it's a difficulty. The other thing is, after a while, all the food in your refrigerator and your freezer goes bad. So after about a day and a half, we threw out everything, that was perishable. And here's the part about preparation. What did I do right? Well, I have many bottles of water, gallon bottles that I always keep on hand for emergencies like this. We have lots of batteries. Didn't end up needing them. I've got a battery to charge my phone that I had charged up fully, canned goods and packaged goods that in an emergency like this we were able to put in a pot. And I've got a propane grill and got extra propane so that if it lasted a long time I still was able to cook food, and that's what we did. Not everybody prepared like that, so I did those things right. Probably waited a little too long to board up the windows. We got them in time. Went Saturday night, 5 days before it actually hit, and got wood panels and learned how to put wood on our windows. First time for us, and we did that. Probably waited a little too long. Probably should have had the wood already, but we got it done. And that was probably my biggest mistake. I filled up on gas. People were going house to house asking if there was any spare gas for the people who had generators. The generators don't run much, but probably you plug your refrigerator into it. I don't know if the air conditioning runs on it or not, but people started scurrying around looking for gas. I actually had a 5-gallon tank of gas that we have for a motorcycle, and gave it to a neighbor for his generator. A neighbor works at a construction company. He came by with a dump truck, and 3 of us unloaded all of our yard waste and trees and cut up trees and that. So it cleans up the street a little bit. They're supposed to come by on Mondays to pick that stuff up, but today's a holiday. I don't know whether we'll see them. So all the stuff sitting out on the front will be sitting there for a long time, but who cares, as long as we don't get another catastrophe hurricane through here. But it goes on. Here's the problem. I'm all out of that food. We'll go get food. But the grocery stores have that same situation. We typically go to Sprouts here. Sprouts has not opened up their locations. Target has opened up. We went there yesterday morning, and they had no produce. They had no refrigerated goods. They had no frozen goods. And those are all the things that we threw out. So we're still struggling with that. And half of the area is still without electricity. Not all the street lights are working. It's kind of hit or miss. I had a doctor's appointment nearby. They were open. I went there and the street lights worked, but it's not the way around this entire area. Um, this is stupid, but all my softball games for this week are canceled. I have a big tournament coming up this weekend up in Lakeland. Don't know whether that's going to happen or not. That's minor and trivial. I understand that. But it's just the way your life gets affected. I don't know that I could have prepared much more. At this point, it's just a matter of getting more to normal. Electricity on. I've got TV. I've got internet now. Wi-Fi was down. Which is what delayed me from putting up that Thursday video until Saturday or Sunday when I put it. I don't know. My wife's back to work, regular hours, meaning 12 hours a day. The dogs are okay, so we're okay, but not everybody is. So think about that. I'm not saying you have to do anything, but just keep in your mind that after the initial day or two of an emergency, life remains difficult for a lot of people. I think back to the catastrophes they've had in Haiti over the last few years, and they don't have the infrastructure we have to start with, so they go through years of dealing with that. We go through days and weeks and months. And we're not, in essence, a third world country, but they have a lot worse. So, talk to me, tell me, those of you who have gone through this, where you are, what's happening. I've heard from a lot of you, and I really appreciate that. The well wishes from everybody. Some of you have gone through this, and some of you have gotten out of town. Good for you. Had my wife not had to work, we certainly would have driven up somewhere north, or, I don't know. we would have gone somewhere much safer just in case. But we lived through it. We're still dealing with it. I don't know how long it's going to be before the grocery stores start getting food. There's still a gas shortage. I filled up beforehand, so again, I prepared well for that. Not that it had a lot of driving to do, but in case we did or had to get out, my wife's car and I, we're both full. So that's it. I'm sure there's other things I'll think of about. Oh, here's the one thing. When the street lights aren't working, as you all know, and as I assume in most states, you treat all intersections as a four-way stop. And there are either people who don't realize that or don't care. Because, man, every intersection between, my wife's facility here had a major car accident. I saw people, it would be one side's turn to go, and then 2 or 3 cars behind them would go. And some of them were going at really high speeds. There weren't a lot of cars out. So, boom, 40, 50 miles an hour, you'd see 3 cars go as you're starting to creep out in the intersection. So either they don't understand that, or they don't care, and I'm sure that's a big part of it, or another situation was they were scared, so it would be their turn to go, and they would sit and wait, and it's okay, okay, do I go now? And then as soon as you start going, they'd start going. So, learn the rules of the road. In an emergency, there's no stoplights, learn how to drive. All right, that's my personal gripe. Again, thanks everybody. Let me know how everyone's doing. Let me know what recommendations you have for me for the future. I did get all my medications and all my important papers packed up beforehand and took them with me, so don't hit me on that one, but whatever else. Sorry for the long rambling video, but I just wanted to get people up to speed. Hopefully later this week, or if it's next week, we get to normal, I can do some regular retirement videos. But good to hear from you. Thanks for listening and watching. Talk to you later. Bye.